This week on QDL, working from home, some tips and tricks. Want to know what they are? Well, join us back here in about 15 seconds. Welcome back to QDL. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest. So employees and employers around the world were quite rapidly forced into the challenging and interesting world of working from home. And, many have discovered that hey, it isn't really all that bad. Many employees like it because of some of the benefits, such as maybe no commute if you live in an urban area, maybe saving money on childcare or elder care, or even just being able to be there with your kids or your elderly parents. Of course, those can also be reasons for not wanting to work from home, so there you go. But some employers also are liking it because in the long run, having employees work from home reduces some of the overhead costs, and in some cases is actually shown to increase productivity. So all of this is to say, a lot of those work from home folks will not be going back to the office. And we've been hearing that from a lot of different industry sectors, that now that they were forced into having their employees work from home in many cases and discovering that it works, some of them are kind of choosing to keep it that way. As Quality Digest Ryan Day writes in his article, Embracing Work from Home, Insights for Employers, the recent shelter-in-place orders have made work from home the new normal, and some organizations are struggling with the transition to working as a remote team. But there are companies that have been doing so for quite a long time. Quality Digest is one of them. And we can benefit from their experience. So what we're going to do is go over some of the tips that you can find in Ryan's article, as well as in that article, there's also a couple of interesting interviews with Eric Doster, CEO of Dozuki, and Jennifer Dennard, COO of Range. Both of those companies have been working with remote teams for quite a few years. So the first tip is to enable asynchronous communication. And by asynchronous communication, we mean the art of choosing the appropriate tool for a particular communication need. Depending on the needs of your own company, different tools will work for different people, different tools for different companies. So a pool of communication solutions could include smartphones, obviously, email. We all have that, but also networking tools such as Slack, Microsoft Teams, Discord. Discord is what Quality Digest uses, Google Hangouts, or maybe even Zoom or Skype if you need some sort of video conferencing or audio conferencing. The tool you use really depends on your needs. So for instance, at Quality Digest, we use Discord for both video and chat and audio conferencing and screen share. Free app works great for us. We also use Google Docs. Again, also can be free if your requirements for storage aren't big. And we also use an app called Trello. So those are actually all free apps, because we're cheap, that we use that work great for us. Now, larger companies, the free apps may not work, but they're there. And so you need to find the tools that work best for your application. So some tips with asynchronous communication. Simple information is best shared via chat or text. Don't try to communicate complex ideas by texting or chatting. More complex or in-depth information requires voice communication or video communication. Big tip. If you have to do complex conversation, do not use chat or text. Use the phone or use audio or video communication. For information that needs to be shared with multiple team members and maybe the thread preserved for future reference, email is still the great way to go. The nice thing about email is obviously you have that written record that is stored on both the sender side and the receiver side. And particularly if you keep a thread going, you don't do a new email each time, then you get this really nice thread of a conversation that you can go back and reference at any time. Most of you already do that. You know what I'm talking about. And then sometimes we struggle to find the right words to express ourselves. If that happens, screen sharing makes the sense. If you're not comfortable with screen share, work with it until you are. A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So sometimes you're trying to explain a complex idea. The easiest thing is just bring up the spreadsheet or bring up the Word document or bring up the browser or whatever and share the screen with another employee or associate so they can actually see what you're talking about. And sometimes that's the most efficient way of communication of all. Almost all collaboration apps, even the free ones, have screen share. So that was asynchronous communication. Tip number 2, fighting tribal knowledge by writing things down. In business, especially in manufacturing, operational knowledge that is held by only certain employees is called tribal knowledge. It's all in their head. It's within the tribe. It's not written down. And the risk with tribal knowledge becomes obvious when the person holding the knowledge is unavailable for whatever reason, like maybe they're fired or they quit or they die. Or maybe they're just working remotely and they're not available at the time and the information you need is in their head and they're not available. So the solution is pretty obvious. Write it down, put it on the cloud. Document everything and put it in a repository on the cloud that is easily accessible to everyone, but maybe only editable by only a few qualified individuals. Almost all cloud sharing apps have permissions. So you can usually set them up so that one person can do editing, but multiple people can view. You can maybe, if it's personnel information, you can even set it up so only let's say the HR person can edit and only a particular employee can view. So there's a lot of ways to do this. There's plenty of free online tools. Google Docs is just one. That's what we use. But an accessible repository of information should include things like day-to-day operations. So at any time, somebody can go out there, see what the plan of attack is for a particular day. Standard work instructions, contact information. I tell you, there's nothing worse working remotely and Jane has to get hold of Frank, doesn't have Frank's contact information, and nobody knows what it is. Put that contact information, the stuff you want available to everybody, onto a document on the cloud so that anybody knows how to contact anybody else within the organization. You might also put communication guidelines up there, kind of the rules, relevant associate information about their employee status. So for instance, if somebody's on vacation, it's nice to be able to go out there, bring up that person on maybe a spreadsheet, that's what we use, and see, hey, when's so-and-so going to be on vacation? So that maybe you can, if you have to schedule a conference call or something, you know when various people are going to be available. Basically, if it's pertinent to running day-to-day operations, you should document it and make that document available online with the required permissions, of course. Okay, third tip for working at home, stay connected. This is important. Although work from home has certain benefits, it is also a challenge for a lot of people because of varying levels of feeling disconnected from their companies and from their company and their coworkers. And trust me, you don't realize how much you value seeing your coworkers face to face until you don't. Isolation syndrome is a very real risk in working from home, especially for those who are newly thrust into the position. And different people are different ways. Some people, excuse me, some people start working from home and adapt to it perfectly fine. In fact, they're more comfortable at home than they are in a work environment. Other people really thrive on the communication they have with their employees and just the chit chat that they have with their employees. And when that is taken away, sometimes they feel very isolated, but actually can lead to things like depression and even illness. So when transitioning to remote work, another problem is that your employees may also struggle with motivation or a lack of clarity in their daily workload. And again, that's because a lot of people pick up on this from just chatting at work. You know, they kind of talk to people and know what's going on, and it kind of helps inform them as to what they need to be working on today. Again, when that's taken away from you, you have to find other tools to get at this. So mitigating some of these risks can be as simple as an intentional video conferencing. Quality Digest has a weekly video teleconference that we do just to kind of keep everybody in the loop, and also just to say hi. It helps kind of reduce that separation anxiety. It's not the same as real face-to-face communication, but it helps. I mean, if you think about it, you see somebody and you see their smile, you see their face. Maybe somebody makes a joke and you actually see and hear them laugh. It's subtle, but it's really valuable and it really works. Another thing you can do is when maximum concentration is not necessary, you can maybe consider a digital open office. And what do we mean by a digital open office? Well, some people are experimenting with, at times, leaving their mics open, their audio conferencing mics open. This works if you're doing kind of mindless work. You know, maybe you're doing data entry, you're doing something that doesn't require a whole lot of concentration. It just gives you the ability to just kind of chat as you work with other coworkers. And if you think about it, this isn't really all that different than what happens in a cubicle farm or open bullpens. It's kind of the remote equivalent of that. Just an open mic allows you to just kind of chat as you go along. Okay, tip number 4, build a culture of trust. This is really a biggie. As you can imagine, new modes of operation are rarely easy, and they're rife with challenges. And with work from home, questions of productivity come up, and they're kind of understandable. When implementing a work from home program, your natural inclination may be to micromanage to ensure productivity. How do I know this person is working, right? If I'm not there looking over their shoulder, how do I know they're doing something? You know, maybe they're not even working. Maybe they're, watching YouTube. It takes a little bit to overcome this, and it takes a lot of trust, and it takes a lot of communication. Things like documented standard work, regular follow-ups, all of those can help build a culture of trust that will foster productivity and engagement. Work from home is not the same as work at the office. The same tasks need to be accomplished, of course, but how they are accomplished without looking over someone's shoulder is different, and it takes a completely different mindset. It's not the same thing. Finally, although Ryan doesn't mention this in his article, I would add a really big point number 5, or tip number 5. Listen, listen, listen to every single member of your team. Working from home is different for each person. The way they deal with it is just personal, and it's different. If someone is struggling to use a particular tool, see if there's a way to adapt that tool to make it easier for that person. Or you know what, just find another tool to supplement the one you have. You don't have to be locked into, and I would suggest that you don't lock yourself into one particular tool. Be flexible. As you go through the whole working from home process, you will find some tools work for a while and then stop working. So if that happens, find another tool. We did a lot of messing around with different online tools until we came up with the set that seems to work pretty well for everybody at Quality Digest. Now, more than ever, we need to step up our leadership game. The silver lining to the COVID-19 outbreak just may be a discovery of business techniques that will actually serve us well into the future. So, I guess summing up here is, to me, the main point and the main thing to leave you with is you have to feel your way along on this. If you've never done work from home, it can be jarring. It can be nerve-wracking. But if you just listen to your employees and you try to suss out what is working for them and try to adapt to that, that's going to be the best. Don't pigeonhole anybody or any particular tool, right? You need to be open to experimentation and finding the tools that work for you and being willing to get rid of those tools when they don't. Quality Digest has been a 100% virtual office for more than 2 years. We went into it fairly gradually, because we had some working from home for a while. That's actually another thing that you can do. You don't necessarily have to dump everybody into working from home all at once. You can do it gradually, get the bugs worked out, particularly if you have a large team, and slowly roll it out. We have a small team, so we had a couple people working from home and learned from that, and then brought the rest on right away. It was pretty easy. Some of us have been doing this for about 20 years. Our advice is to find the tools that work for you. Don't be afraid to change them as you go along, and that's what we did. Be flexible, listen to one another, and you'll find that working from home can be a really good thing. Okay, that is our show for today. I hope that you're having a good time working from home and not going crazy. As usual, if there is someone you would like to see on the show, or some topic you would like us to cover, or something you'd like us to bring on the show, send those ideas to us at qdl@qualitydigest.com. We will do our best to cover those topics or bring on those guests. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you on the next QDL. So long.